What's good, YouTube? Jay Lee here. Got another Northwest podcast today. I'm gonna talk about why women do porn, the psychology behind why they would choose that type of job, and it shouldn't be too much of a surprise if you have common sense. But let's talk about it. Well, let's hear it from the horse's mouth. And this is a woman who's done porn. She's still young, so she's not like past the hill where she's like looking back. I think she's still doing it, at least as far as this video is concerned. So let's watch this video, and then we'll go back and break it down.
I've had with more people at 25 than most people have in their entire life.
And you don't feel any type of shame about that?
I'm not ashamed of having for money. Like, I love it.
What got you into this?
I was like, this is an easy, safe way for me to get laid, and I'm making money. This sounds like a really good idea.
What type of upbringing did you have?
I did grow up with two moms.
Two moms is pretty different.
I guess you could say that's different, but it's, I consider it normal.
So how's your relationship with your mothers, and do they approve of what you're doing?
She's very, very supportive.
And men that you date, how do they feel about this?
Very insecure. I mean, I have with huge, like big, like this, like this.
Maybe not keep touching me like that, all right? And now, is there anything you regret about doing what you do?
There's always going to be my holes on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm dumb.
I know.
So there you go. So let's let's watch that again and kind of pause it and break it down, and we'll get into we'll dive into the psychology of this type of woman.
I've had with more people at 25 than most people have in their entire life.
So obviously this is a satire. This guy isn't really talking to her. It's a video dub or voiceover, video over, whatever you want to call it. But so she said, I've had sex with more people at my age, and she's probably, let's say 30. She could be anywhere from 25 to, I don't think she's older than 34. So we'll just say 30. She might be a little younger there, but which, by the way, a lot of young girls get into porn at 18, which is crazy. But you can just tell by the way she said that. I've had sex with more people at my age than most people have in their entire life. You can tell that she is proud of that in some way, which is pretty twisted. You can just see it on her face, how she's like, yeah, she says it like it's a kind of like if a girl is ashamed of herself, or she somehow feels like this isn't moral, or I shouldn't be doing this, she's not going to brag about it like that. So she clearly doesn't have a moral, at least in this interview, she's not exhibiting any kind of moral foundation or any kind of moral compass. She doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. And then you hear her later on say that she was raised by two mothers, which to me screams lesbian feminist. And these women these radical feminists believe and push the idea that sexuality is freedom, sexuality is empowering. So when you have that kind of psychology, and of course this goes into like the whole argument of should, same-sex people be raising children. And I just saw the other day where there was and obviously this isn't every case, but I saw the other day where there was a same-sex couple, two men, who adopted a young child. And I don't know if this woman was adopted or not. But regardless, they adopted a young child and then they molested that child. And I'm not saying that that's every case. I'm not saying that two same-sex people couldn't raise a child in love and safety. But it's hard for me to believe that a same-sex couple could raise a child with proper morals. That's harder for me to believe. I'm not saying it can't happen. It's just harder for me to believe. So when she says I had two mothers, what that's saying is that there's a lack of morals there to me. And yes, it's conjecture. I don't know for sure, but lesbianism and radical feminism go hand in hand. And what do radical feminists believe? They believe that sexuality is freedom. Exploring sexuality is freedom, as opposed to someone who has who has a moral compass, who believes that, you know, morality is a safeguard, right? You know, when you use the word freedom in that term, like, oh, I'm free to do what I want. It's when you realize that, like, there's negative stuff that can come. When you realize that it's one of those words where you can, like, hide stuff in, right? Oh, I'm free. It's empowering, and it's, you know, they use these, like, positive words for something that is the opposite of empowering. It's actually demeaning. It's actually dangerous. So freedom is like, yes, I have the freedom to jump off a cliff. Like, I can technically do that because we live in a free country. It's not against the law, quote unquote, to jump off of a cliff, or maybe it is, I don't know. But I have the freedom in that I could just walk down somewhere and jump off a cliff. Does that, you know, you use certain words in certain contexts, they sound positive. You're like, oh yeah, I've got freedom. But then you realize that, like, well, you know, with freedom should come responsibility. With freedom should come wisdom to not do something that's going to harm you, to not do something that's going to mess up your future, to not do something that's demeaning or lowering your value. So I fully believe that anybody who's raised in that type of, particularly to women, I believe that feminism is at the core. I believe that radical modern feminism is a motivation, you know, and I should say a blueprint of how they're raising their child. So if they're raising their child with modern feminist values, that means sexuality is empowerment to them. So I fully see a young woman here who doesn't have any morals, who doesn't believe that being sexual is expressing her sexuality, and being sexual is wrong in any type of moral way. I think that she was already going to have sex, and you'll hear this a lot too. And I've heard this before. You know, when young women are being asked why they do porn, a lot of the reason is the sex. Believe it or not, a lot of the reasons is the sex. They want guys who are in crazy good shape. And she said and I think she used the word safety. So there's like a safeguard there, where, you know, there is regulation, there's testing, right? She doesn't have to worry about getting pregnant. She doesn't have to worry about getting, well, actually, you know, women these days just have, I mean, you probably do still have to worry about getting pregnant if you're being cream pied, which is a part of porn. But you can just get an abortion. But she doesn't have to worry about getting raped. She doesn't have to worry about STDs as much, even though that's kind of not true, because you know, the statistics, a lot of these porn people do have STDs. So it's kind of like her foundation is built on it's built on sand. It's built on glass or sand. It's a shifty, faulty foundation that she believes is safeguarded, and she believes is an easy way for her to get paid and have sex. It's exciting. It's exciting. I've talked about this before. I've made videos on porn before. Why do women do it? There's 3 reasons. 1, they like the sex, and it's safe sex to some degree, and it's regulated sex to some degree, meaning like she gets to pick who she has sex with. You know, if the guy has a big D, and a lot of women have the fear of, like, making a mistake. Oh, I choose this guy to have sex with, and I go home with him and he's like abusive or something, or maybe he has a small penis and the sex is not good and it's not a fun time, and then she has all kinds of regret, and then she's like, oh, I gave my body to that guy, and I gave my emotions to that guy, and the sex wasn't good, and she's all bothered about that. So that safeguards that. She knows the sex is going to be good. She knows he's going to have a big D. She knows probably he's not going to have an STD because they do regulation, at least if it's a good company. I've heard stories. And then you hear statistics where a lot of them have herpes, a lot of them have HPV, and it's just something that's like they don't talk about. They make sure they don't have HIV, but they're, when it comes to like HPV or herpes or something, they look the other way because those are just so common, and there's really not much symptoms with those if you're taking care of yourself and you're taking like pills from your doctor or whatever. But a lot of them get gonorrhea, a lot of them get I think syphilis even, and then they get treated, and those are treatable STDs that come and go, and then they're back in the game a couple months later. It's just a seedy business. So a lot of this is, her foundation is built on, the three reasons. The first of all is the sex, the controlled sex. The second reason is the fame that turns them on, that guys are jerking off to them. It turns them on that they're famous. It turns them on that they turn guys on, because women love validation, right? They love validation. They love knowing that guys, and women know this better than anyone. They know the psychology behind a guy wanting to have sex with them. It means the guy's thinking about them. It means the guy's lusting after them, and to them that gives them power. To them, that makes them feel, it validates their existence, and women live off of this. This is why you'll have women on the internet looking for guys to orbit them. This is why you'll have women on the internet posting pictures and looking for attention and this, that, and the third, because it's validation. It gives them self-esteem, and that's what's the ultimate validation is when somebody wants to have sex with you, and then on top of that, you're not going to do it, because if a guy's like, oh yeah, this woman wants to have sex with me, he's just going to have sex with her and that's it. But the woman's like, no, it's more powerful in her psychology. She's like, no, it's more powerful if I don't have sex with them. It's more powerful if they just lust after me and they want me. And like, it's this weird, twisted type of solid system. And it's so narcissistic. But imagine when you go on a porn video and it's got 5 million views, and guys, 5 million dudes on that just one particular video. You've got hundreds, if not thousands, of videos out there. Just on that one particular video, you got 5 million guys jerking off to you. What does that do for your ego? You think you're goddess status. You think you're a god. You think, wow, these guys. Imagine if you were in that situation. You have this video out there, and 5 million women are fingering themselves to you. It's like, it would give you an ego boost, don't you think? And so that's the second motivation. So the first motivation is the great sex. Second motivation is the validation and the fame. The third motivation is obviously the money. You can get rich doing this. If you look up like popular porn stars, I don't know, Jenna Jameson. Who's a popular porn star today? I don't even know. But the old, and you can get famous, ultra famous. Like, everybody knows who Jenna Jameson is, or at least they used to, because she got to that level of fame somehow. She wrote a book, and like, she was on talk shows and all this crap, and then she had like, she married some guy, I think she married some ex MMA guy who's a champion. I think his name is Victor Ortiz or something. I think she married him, or some crap like that. Maybe not Victor Ortiz. And then he ended up, there's like domestic violence where he beat her up or something, probably because she cheated on him. It's like, these women, man, they're just so shady. But you can get to that level of fame, and you can get, and what comes along with that level of fame? Riches. When a famous person is famous, what do they get? They get riches somehow, whether it's through paid interviews or fan contributions or whatever. Like, when you get to that level of fame, you start getting millions. And so you look up the net worth of a lot of these, porn stars, and they don't even have to be on Jenna Jameson's level. Just type in like, who are the popular porn stars of today? Lana Rhoades, Mia Khalifa, Brie Olsen, or these are the ones who were coming out and denouncing porn, and yet their net worth is in the triple million, handful of millions, 3 million, 4 million here. It's like, you realize like, oh, it's lucrative. Oh, you can get into the business and make millions of dollars. I don't know, what the average pay is for like, the average woman who's like not super famous, or she's not, I mean, obviously it matters how hot she is, right? But you can make a lot of money, man. So those are the three reasons: the good sex, the fame, and then the money. And it's like, this girl does not feel any kind of regret. You can see it on her face. She's like, I got it going on in spades. And we'll talk about in a minute what she's sacrificing, but let's go on.
You don't feel any type of shame about that?
I'm not ashamed of having sex for money. Like, I love it.
What got you into this?
I don't know if that's cap. I don't know if she's lying. I don't know if that's denial. She's like, I'm not ashamed. I love it. Maybe it's true. Maybe she really isn't ashamed, and probably because it's just so beneficial to her. It's like, oh well, if people want to watch me, and I think what a lot of it is too is they think like, well, the only type of guys who are really going to be watching me are guys who want to have sex with me or guys who want to jerk off to me. I think that's kind of a in their mind, it's kind of an excuse for doing what they do. But you can just see it right there in her face. She's like, I don't want to. She's like, I'm not ashamed of it. I don't want to be. I don't want to feel ashamed for something that I'm fine with. And it's like, I guess, man. And that's the type of world we live in, where like, there's no accountability anymore. There's no social stigma anymore. It doesn't matter. Like, people don't care. And it's like, when you have that type of society, well, there's no community. I mean, if there was community, it's hard to have a community when, you don't love or respect your neighbors. It's hard to have a community when, we just don't, I was talking about this with somebody recently too, is America lost its community spirit. We've lost the, everybody's so insulated. Everybody is so living in their own world. Everybody's in their shell. And I think the internet did that a lot. The internet really killed that type of communication. It killed that type of real life experience where people used to have barbecues, people used to go to parties, people used to have friends over, things like that. I think the internet killed a great percentage of that, where that type of community spirit is just gone in America, and we've taken a big hit, whether we realize it or not, in our country spirit, in our human type of spirit, where when you don't have when you don't have friends, when you don't have people who care about you, when you don't have a community of people that you get together with, of course you still got church, you can go to church, but people, do people go to church? Not really. Which is unfortunate. They should, and that's really what we were created for, to have that type of community spirit in a church type setting. But people don't care about God. They disregard God, because that's another thing that's happened to our country is by and large, we've become a very immoral country. We've lost values. We've lost our morals. And that's part and parcel of what this whole video is about. She doesn't have morals, and there's no... This is a young woman who's very lost. This is a young woman, she's lost and she doesn't realize it because of the benefits. Because, hey, I'm taken care of. She's probably a millionaire by now. Because these girls, and I think she's cute enough to where she she could have been an actress. She's that type of cute where, like, people want to see her, her little personality, and it's just this whole seedy world where, like, guys will pay her tens of thousands of dollars just to have a 3-minute conversation with her on some random cam girl site. I don't know what these sites are called. Cam girl sites, whatever they're called. They'll pay tens of thousands of dollars because she's famous and she's probably got her name out there. And, to her, it's like, all I see is, everything's on the up and up. Everything's good. Everything is, she probably doesn't even rent. She probably doesn't pay rent. She probably owns a home. And it's like, guys are out here struggling. Guys are out here barely being able to afford basic stuff. And she's living lavishly because she was able to take some 8-inch dong for 2 hours and do it over and over. And I've heard stories of how many scenes they have per month. They can have a scene every day. They can have a scene every other day. Anywhere from 15 to 25 probably days every month. They're having a porn scene. And it's like, can you imagine just the amount of sheer volume that is? And how hard is that as far as a job? I mean, yes, it's hard, excuse the pun, but you know what I mean? It's like, all she's got to worry about is like rug burn. All she's got to worry about is her pelvis gets sore. You know what I mean? Like you got guys out here, you got people out here struggling, working to live a regular job. And I guess, you could argue and say, oh, in the free market, she fulfills a need. She's supply and demand, right? The free market, is a thing where if there's a need for it, then you could sell it, right? So guys need to jerk off, I guess, but it's just it's a weird way to conduct your life, man. And all right, anyway, we'll break down that a little bit more.
I was like, this is an easy, safe way for me to get laid, and I'm making money.
There you go. It's an easy, safe way for me to get laid. So she was already having sex. So that's the thing. Is like these girls are already having sex. They're like, why shouldn't I just get paid for it? And then again, you have to think of their psychology. Their psychology is, well, these guys are jerking off, and they're gonna jerk off anyways. It might as well be to me, and that helps my self-esteem, where I feel hot and I feel good. Like, look how happy she is. She's at least temporarily very happy. This is a beautiful girl. This girl is, but in 20, 30 years, she's not going to be so beautiful. And then is she going to have kids? Is she going to, her kids are going to know what she did? In 20, and I'll give Andrew Tate credit for this. He made a point on Fresh and Fit podcast that, when you're 50 years old, as a female, and your body starts to break down and you're not beautiful anymore, and you don't have any kind of power as far as like what your youth and your fertility anymore, all that's gone. What are you going to have left? And I think that at some point, I don't care how much money she makes, at some point it's going to feel empty when you don't have a family. At some point she's going to regret not having a family. Probably. Now, some people just don't want kids, and I'm probably one of those people, and it's like, I get that, but you can also be lonely in that case. Like, I had a specific type of dysfunctional upbringing, and I think that a lot of these young porn stars do as well. They've had dysfunctional upbringings, and to them that has probably warped their concept of family and children. I wouldn't say all, but I'd say a lot of them, and she particularly as well. She mentions that she had 2 moms, and that's not a normal thing. She didn't have a dad. She had no male fatherly guidance and things like that. So it stands to reason that she would just be this type of person. But when you have a bad family upbringing or a dysfunctional family upbringing, as opposed to a very positive family upbringing, where your mom and your dad loved each other, you were loved as a child, it's easier to like not want kids. It's easier to be like, oh, kids are such a burden, and they are a burden. Kids are, it's stressful, and it's like, that is true, right? But at the same time, what you get back if you have children, what you get back if you are a parent, a quality parent, is you get love back, and you get the reward of a family that is, there's a family bond, and there's trust, and there's support, and there's all these kind of intangible things that the reason why so many people in the past have had families. It's not just for procreation. It's not just, I don't think people go into marriage and family thinking like, oh, I've got to procreate to keep the human race going. No, I think they do it because of love. I think they do it because there's something within them that wants to love a child, and they want the love from a child, and they want the bond there, and they want the bond that's found in that parent-child love. And when you don't have that, I think for a lot of people there's a kind of emptiness. Now, I wouldn't say all people. Like I said, myself, I kind of don't have those feelings where I really need children, kind of thing. And if I did, then my life would probably be very different. I would probably be very much seeking for that, for a family. I think I would live my life a very different way. So it's possible that she doesn't feel that she doesn't sense that. Although in my opinion, I think that women are more apt to, I think it's more of a masculine thing to not care as much about children, whereas I think women, because they're more emotional, I think they need a bond from a child more than a man does. That's just my opinion. I don't know for 100% sure, but so I think at some point she's going to look back on her life and be like, well, I've got all this money, I've got all these riches, I've got everything I ever wanted materialistically wise, right? But I don't have that love and bond from a child. I don't have that family. And I think a lot of these porn stars are going to be lacking that. And I think if they do end up having a family, at some point they're going to have a lot of guilt. At some point they're going to have they're going to look at their life and be like, dang, I kind of wish I was more moral for my child. You would think, although sometimes, they might not care. And I've heard of like mother-daughter, where the mother was a porn star and then the daughter became a porn star. I've heard of that. And that's just, to me, that's just a sick society. That's just that just lacks, it's a totally void of any kind of values, any kind of morals. And if you don't have that, it's like you might not even know what that is. You might not even know what you're missing. You might not even know the importance of morals. You might not even care. You might just be like, who cares? All that matters is that I've got my mansion, I've got my money, I've got my car, and like those are your values. Materialistic things become your values. And in that case, I would say she's not a catch. She's not a prize for any man. And she could never be a good mother. She could never be a quality human being as far as my standards are concerned. Now, you could say I'm judging her, whatever, I don't know. But at some point you just gotta like call a spade and be like, hey, this is just not, this is not normal. And they're trying to normalize something that's not normal. And I think a lot of young women, it's very enticing. They're just like, oh yeah, well, why would I want to work? Why would I want to go toil? Why would I want to go, work my hands to the bone just so I could survive and pay the rent and just live this horrible, boring, excruciating life when I can go over here and have sex, which is great. I love sex. And I can become rich doing it. Like, hell yeah, sign me up. And it's just like, that's the psychology behind this, is like, there you go. It's a racket. You're getting money hand over fist. Excuse the pun, but you're getting money like crazy, and there's just, the downside seems very little. Okay, what do you got to sacrifice? You got to sacrifice your morals. You got to sacrifice your values. You sacrifice your self-respect. In many cases, if you even have self-respect to begin with, if your self-respect is even founded on any type of moral values, a lot of these women don't have self-respect that's even founded on any values. That their type of self-respect is, hey, I got money and I can fly to Hawaii 5 times a year. I can buy this condo. I can do this. It's like, but at some point I feel like they're going to get dried up. At some point I feel like their looks are no longer going to matter, and they're just going to feel kind of empty in there at some point. And whether it's because of a lack of family, or whether it's because of a lack of love in general, whether they just feel gross and feel used, or whether they have consequences such as STDs or like a bunch of abortions, their conscience is deep down bothering them. I mean, you have to like have no conscience to have this type of career. You have to because your conscience is going to be like, if you really know what a conscience is, and your conscience actually is functioning to some degree, you're going to be like, this is wrong. Something within you is going to be like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is wrong. But if you just gloss that over and be like, nah, I'm making money, it is what it is, I'm having fun, it feels good, it's great, there's no downside besides obviously all the things I mentioned. It's like, you're gonna ignore that little Jiminy Cricket. You're gonna ignore your little conscience. And so, I don't know, man. I think there's a type of delusion. There's a certain type of delusion. There's a certain type of there's just a certain type of delusion that these young women are under, that they think it's going to be all good forever, or even if it is, it's like maybe they don't know what they're missing. Maybe there's a whole other side of life that could have been a lot better for them, but they just chose this other way, and it's hard. I don't think these women can be good parents. I don't think they can be good wives. I don't think they can be good just in general. It's hard for me to really feel like they can be good to anything or anybody besides themselves. I think it's a very selfish life, probably. I think many try to, disassociate from the past. I think that's what Lana Rhoades and Brie Olson and Mia Khalifa are trying to do, in a public space. And I know many of them, there's like a whole kind of ministry out there where like ex-porn stars turn to Jesus kind of thing, and you can Google this, and it was kind of popular for a while, but kind of got swept under the rug. And there is a thing where like, at a certain point, these ex-porn stars, they start to feel guilty, or they get too old, they hit the wall, and then all of a sudden they like give their lives to Jesus. And it's something that you can Google and figure out. And so there's I mean, that implies a lot. That means that at some point they try to, dissolve and absolve themselves from any past guilt or any past consequences, et cetera, et cetera. Which tells you a lot. Which tells you a lot about the whole industry. Is that, it's, if it's not moral, if it's not something that's righteous, there's gonna be some, bad feelings about it eventually. You're gonna feel guilty. You're gonna feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, and I think a lot of these young women, they want to have families eventually, and then they realize like, oh, this is gonna be with me for the rest of my life. I'm famous. My videos are out there in masses. People can access my videos. Some of my kids' friends are probably going to recognize me. Somebody in my community is probably going to recognize me. I go out, I think I heard Brie Olson say, when I go out, when I walk, in town, and I go out and do my daily activities, I feel like I'm being watched. I feel like people recognize me. And that's kind of a horrible consequence in a way. It's like, but I think that she also, some of these girls, they make it worse on themselves by being famous and trying to parlay their porn star status into actual everyday fame, which everyday fame is a different animal. Porn star status is one thing because it's like, the guys who are watching your videos are going to be guys who are doing it on the under, who are not trying to get caught. They don't want people to know they watch porn, and it's a hidden thing. Whereas if you transition over into everyday fame, what that means is that, like, housewives know who you are. Like anybody who watches The Daily Show or any kind of media, you're out there. Your name is out there. Most of these girls are not out there. So a lot of the mistakes that these girls make are like trying to parlay their porn star fame into real life everyday fame. That's a mistake, because if at any point you want to not be recognized and you want anonymity in your everyday life, if you parlay that porn star status over into real life fame, you're never going to have that. And it's not going to be positive. People are going to be like, oh, look, there's that porn star. People are going to judge you. People are going to, and it's not going to be good. And this is why Mia Khalifa and Lana Rhoades and Brie Olson, this is why these girls are out here trying to denounce their past, trying to attack people who judge them, trying to like pretend that they got into the industry out of coercion and it's men's fault and I blame the patriarch and all this stuff that's not working, because people can watch your videos. They see that you are enjoying those videos. It's there in the videos. Like, they know why you did the video, because you like sex, because you wanted to get paid, and you thought it was fun, and you thought it was lucrative, and it was, and it made you rich. Mia Khalifa has like $4 million in the bank. Sorry to say, Lana Rhoades is rich. These girls are paid. So people don't feel sorry for that. You used your sexuality to become rich and famous, and then you want to denounce it and act like, you've changed and now this, that. And it's like, it's not even a matter of maybe you have changed. It's not that we don't believe you. It's that you got to have your cake and eat it too. We don't respect that. Particularly men don't respect that. There's nothing to be respected there. We got to work hard. Men have to work hard to have a home. We can't just take our pants off and get rich. And there's something to be said for that. And not only that, obviously all the things that men care about in a woman, sanctity and purity is at the top of the list. Guys don't want to marry a woman who's been used. Guys don't want to marry a woman. Would you want the mother of your kids to be on the internet, out there for anybody to see? No. What kind of man would you be if you chose that? You got to have some self-respect in that sense. All right, so let's go on.
This sounds like a really good idea.
What type of upbringing did you have?
This sounds like a really good idea. Like, that right there tells you that. Yeah, and the way she said it was like, oh, it's a no-brainer. There's no downside. It's like, of course there's a downside. Of course there's a big downside. All the things I just mentioned. You lose your anonymity. Are you ever going to be able to raise kids? If you do, there's going to be all kinds of problems with that, because their friends at school are going to know and find out. Kids find this stuff out, man. It's going to kids are like little investigators. It's going to happen, man, one way or the other. Sooner or later, and it might not be that bad, but you got to have that at the back of your mind that like, oh, this decision that I'm making is going to stick with me for the rest of my life, because those videos don't go anywhere. Once you sign that contract, you are it's out of your control, right? It's the company's discretion what to do with that video, and it's out there, So it's a very, very serious choice, and it's like it's not that I wouldn't, like, I'd say, 18-year-olds shouldn't be able to do porn. Like, you make some laws around it. Like, 18-year-olds are stupid. They sign themselves to go to, if they can go to war, they can sign up to do porn. If they can vote and go to war, then it's like they can do whatever. I get it. That's just the age of adulthood. And the problem that comes along with that is stupidity, making bad choices. But this woman here is not 18, and she's certainly, I don't think she's younger than 25. She looks to be between 28 and 32. That's why I said 30 at the beginning of the video. So she still doesn't believe that anything she did, she's like, oh, it's a no-brainer, make money and have sex. And it's just like, well, I guess you haven't given much thought to any, your future. I guess you haven't given much thought to having any kind of family. So, but then it gets a little real, and you could tell on her face here that she's like, oh, well, I did have a bad upbringing, or oh, I did have two parents, but she probably didn't even think there's anything wrong with that. Let's see.
Did grow up with two moms?
Two moms is pretty different.
I guess you could say that's different, but it's, I consider it normal.
So how's your relationship with your mothers, and do they approve of what you're doing?
She's very, very supportive.
And men that you date.
So probably she had a single mother that ended up becoming a lesbian, or ended up becoming, getting into a relationship with another woman, and her mom's fine with what she does, which just tells me it's feminism. That just tells me that's what feminists think. Feminists don't have moral values when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to promiscuity. They just lack that foundation. And any parent who's a quality parent that's part of being a parent, is instilling morals and values into your child. And if you grow up teaching your child that it's okay to be sexual, that's a problem. This is what you get. You get this type of young woman who just, I don't know, man, it's going to affect her for the rest of her life. And maybe someday when she's older, she's going to look back and be like, wow, my mother really failed me. She didn't give me any values. That's if somehow she comes to the realization that values are real. If you have no if you have no moral compass, if you have no foundation, if you have no point of reference for morals, then you're not going to even know what you're doing is wrong. You're just going to be like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'm having fun. It feels good. I'm getting paid. Everything's good. And that's her attitude. Everything's good, and hey, for a while, maybe we'll see.
How do they feel about this?
They're insecure. I mean, I have with huge.
Okay, and there's a consequence. So we see at least one consequence in this video, is that the boyfriends that she's dating have a problem with her job, as they should. As they should. The boyfriends that she is dating has a problem with her choice of career, as they freaking should. And so this is the part where women get upset. And this is where women start to attack men, and they try to manipulate. And I've talked about this before on my channel, where women will try to manipulate reality. They will try to, and they've been trying with the red pill. And there's always women who come out, and some young, I shouldn't say young, but some men, some white knight men, is what I meant to say. Some white knight beta men will come and try to attack you and try to debate with you, and oh, it's not all women, and all this defense that these guys do for these women. They're trying to manipulate reality. They just don't like the fact that, hey, a lot of men out here, most men have values. Most men do not want used goods. Most men, it's not even and they'll use words like intimidation, and maybe there's some like, yeah, if I don't have a 10-inch dong and you're on camera sleeping with 10-inch dongs, I might feel some intimidation where, like, I'm not as good as that guy. There might be some of that, but that's not the whole thing. The whole thing is like, the whole truth of the matter is like, hey, you're sleeping with other dudes. You're supposed to be mine, and I'm supposed to be yours. And when you don't have that, when you don't have the basic monogamous concept instilled in the way you look at relationships, like, I can't think of a bigger red flag than that. If you think that it's okay to go sleep with other people while you're in a relationship, or even when you're not in a relationship, really, you don't have a clue about what a relationship is about. you just don't have a clue about a real relationship. If you're sleeping with other people while you're, it's like, that's just relationship suicide. It's hard enough when these girls have a body count that's high and they've got a sordid past. But while you're dating the guy and you think the guy's going to be okay with that, like, it just boggles my mind that there's no point of reference of any kind of values. It's just mind-boggling that there's no moral epiphany here. There's no light bulb going off and saying, "Hey, this is a moral." There's no light bulb going off saying, "Hey, it's not right for me to sleep around and then act like I want a boyfriend." And even like I said, I have problems with women today. All guys do. We got problems with these women today where they got the body counts, super high body counts, and then they want to come date us, and then they want to come, they want to go have their fun and then settle down with us. And it's like, no, that's not okay. But let alone this woman who expects that her boyfriend is going to be okay with the fact that she's sleeping. It's like, it's just something instilled in a man where no. And if you're the type of man who does allow that, then you're seedy, you're creepy, something's wrong with you, and you don't have a moral compass. Like, a lot of what makes a man is having a strong moral compass, having a strong moral background, having discipline, having character really involves having boundaries and having strong values. And if you don't have that as a man, you can't be a quality man. So if you're a quality woman and you want a quality man, and that man, you expect that man to be okay with your sleeping around in the past, let alone with what you're doing in the present, I mean, you're just not living in reality, and you're not going to get a high value man. You're going to get a man who's creepy. You're going to get a man who doesn't have values. This is why we have these type of polyamorous scenarios, and do those ever work out? And if they do, it's just gross to think about. And it's like, it's not normal. Like, that's not what a normal human being should be. It's not, because humans are moral. Humans are good. Humans are created in that way. And if you throw away that part of humanity, then you throw away a part of, what it means to be human. And then what are you left with? You're left with this, I don't know what you're left with. You're left with a kind of weird life, and I think that there's going to be all kinds of problems with that type of life. So here she's starting to get into some kind of reality and some kind of dose of consequence.
Like big, like this, like this.
Maybe not keep touching me like that, all right? And now, is there anything you regret about doing what you do?
There's always going to be my holes on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone thinks I'm dumb.
I know.
That's it. That's it. Oh, you people think you're dumb. I mean, yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't even think that's an issue. Like, I don't think most people care about your intelligence. It's not even. This is where women just always kind of blow me away. Is like, oh, it's about your intelligence now. Oh, in the back of their mind, they're like, well, I can do things. Just because I have sex, it doesn't mean I'm not smart. It's like, well, it kind of does in a way, but maybe so. Maybe you have intelligence outside of that. But you're not using that intelligence. You're not bringing anything better to the world, and it doesn't even matter. Like, guys don't care that much about a woman. I mean, okay, look, I would say this. I think guys should care about a woman's intelligence, and that should be one of your requirements to be around a woman as far as a relationship is concerned, and that should matter. Yes, a woman's intelligence matters. But what I care about is her morality. What I care about is what causes. I don't care if you're intelligent. I'm not going to respect you any more or less if you're intelligent. How I'm going to respect a woman is if she's promiscuous or not. If you're promiscuous, I'm not going to respect you. If you are moral and you have a moral backbone and you don't sleep around, then I'm going to respect you as a woman, because I'm going to be like, cool, you had an opportunity to go out and just have fun, because it's so easy for women to have sex, and you could have went out and sold your body like these porn stars and made $1 million. But instead of doing that, you worked hard and you kept your morals and you kept your purity, and you became a doctor, you became this or you became that, and you didn't use your sexuality, and you're not like one of these modern women who just has sex, who just sleeps with guys, and it's yes, I lose respect for women who are promiscuous. Absolutely. 100%. I lose respect for women who are promiscuous. For women who sleep around, I have zero respect. I just don't. And is it the same for men? Kind of, but not in the same way, because most guys can't go sleep around. So it really doesn't even come up that much. It's not even the same thing. And to some extent, yeah, if a guy is able to sleep around a lot, to some extent, yeah, I don't really respect that guy either. Because to me, morals are what's to be respected. If you have a moral foundation, if you're a moral person and you stay that way, it's like, that's what I think makes a quality person and is deserving of respect. That's not all, but that's part of it. Yeah, like if you're a person who tells the truth, if you're a person who's honest, if you're a person who's real and genuine, if you're a person who is, kind and sociable, those are all things that I respect too. But it's part of an entire package, and it's like most people, they don't have all that other stuff. Most people don't even have time to be kind, don't have time to be intelligent. They don't have time to even exhibit things like this. All most people are really worried about is paying their rent and surviving, and that comes with, there's a part of there's kind of a biological imperative that comes along with that, to have sex and to procreate and things like that. And most people don't even have time to breathe in this sick world, in this sick matrix that we live in. Most people don't even have time to develop character, develop morals, because they're just so busy trying to pay their rent. They're so busy with their one family or whatever. It's like, so it's hard to respect really anyone when everybody is just kind of slaves, in general. And then I think probably that's an excuse for a lot of people to be like, well, yeah, I don't want to be a slave. And it's like, in a way, I kind of don't blame them in a way. Like, yeah, if there's there's a way for you to just take your pants off and become a millionaire, like, people are people are cleaning toilets, and so it's like, if that's what you can do, then do it, I guess. I don't know. But at the same time, like, don't expect people to respect you. Don't expect to, like, have a quality, loving family. It's messed up, man. And the world's messed up. People need God. And that's why I always come back and say, like, the whole world is just messed up. And it's like, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's like, you can't, I'm a porn star, but I expect for guys that I date to really respect me, and guys that I date to really take me serious. And it's like, no, they shouldn't. And they'd be stupid if they did, because just rationally, it's like, logically, if you're dating a porn star, do you think she's going to be a quality girlfriend? Do you think she's going to be a quality person? Do you think she's going to really love you or be monogamous with you? Hell no. It's like putting a gun to your head and pulling the trigger and not expecting to blow your head off. It's like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, let's play Russian roulette or something. Like, eventually that trigger's going to go off and you're going to get hurt. Eventually she's going to cheat on you. Eventually, she's going to get bored of you because, the guy who banged her yesterday had a 12-inch dong and you're half of that, barely, and she's not satisfied. And then, you're competing with, it's just sick. It's weird to even think about. It's like, why would I have to even explain that? Like, and why would she think it would be any different? She'd has to be really in delusion or denial to think it should be any different. Like, if you're intelligent and you're a logical person, like, you want people to respect you for your intelligence, and yet you think a guy that you're dating would be okay with you having porn, it's like, that's not intelligent. Anyway, so it's a crazy thing, man. It's a crazy thing these young girls are doing, and it's not right. You know what it's not fair to? It's not fair to the guy she dates. It's not fair to her future lover. It's not fair to her future family, for her to make those decisions. This is a lot of what women do. Here's what women do. They go, oh, it's my decision. I'm an adult. I can do what I want. I'm making the decision for myself. That when they start doing something like that. And then later on down the road, when it's time to, really live their life, and like, okay, now that I want a husband, or now that I want a family, or now that I want, respect and all these other things, and I'm not getting it, then I want to blame others. Then I want to blame, the porn producers, or I want to blame men who sexualize me, or I want to blame the patriarchy or whatever, then they want to blame shift. It starts out like where it's like, oh, it's my choice. I'm a strong, independent woman. But then later on down the road, then they start to blame. And it's like, you got to take your responsibility. You made that decision, so take the responsibility for it. If you're grown and strong and independent when you're however young and or old, and you make the decision to do porn, then later on down the road you can't turn around and blame somebody else. That was your decision that you made, right? And so if no guys are taking you serious, if guys are intimidated, or guys don't want to date someone who they think is gross or used up, then that's the decision that you made, and you have to say, okay, I made that decision. And don't blame men. Don't be like, oh, it's the man, these men are immature. And this is what women do. They get all mad and they start to attack and manipulate and argue with the red pill, argue with guys who are like, no, I don't want some used up woman. And they start to attack and call you an incel and call you, you're a misogynist, you want to control women's bodies, and woo, and that shit never works, and it was never supposed to work. It's just an excuse. You're just in denial, because guys feel how we feel. We don't want used goods. We don't want to compete with Chad and Tyrone, 12-inch D's. We don't want to deal with all that. We want a woman who's pure. We want a woman who has not slept around. This is why you should meet a girl who's young. Meet a girl who's 19, 20 and marry her at that age. Fall in love at that age. And if you're older than that, then you're kind of SOL. And I'm older than that, and I don't expect a pure woman, and I don't even want a woman because it's like they're all used. So it's like, what do I have to choose from? Single moms, extremely damaged women with baggage, overweight women whose body counts are in the triple digits. Like, just forget about it. It's like you can't get what you want after a certain age as a man. If she's older than age 22, 24, she's gonna be used goods. She's gonna be out there exploring, exercising her options, out there having fun. And this is what girls say, I want to go on adventures, I want to go have fun, and this is what they're doing. And where does that leave you as the guy who wants a pure woman? Where does that leave you as the guy who wants to love her? Where does that leave you as the guy who wants to love this special woman? She's not special. If a bunch of different guys have had her, she's not special. And women can't wrap their heads around that. Women can't accept that guys want a special woman, and when you go sleep around, you're not special anymore. Not to mention STDs, not to mention the emotional damage, not to mention how a lot of these women get jaded. Their skin tone gets messed up from swallowing all those random dudes' DNA. They develop mental problems because their emotions can't handle it, and because women are emotionally attached to sex. There's just so many problems, man. And really, it's not logical or intelligent to think that, to think or expect a guy to accept that. You know what I mean? That's just not. You at a certain point, you just got to be like, okay, I'm damaged goods, and I got to deal with it. And the guy that I get, either he's gonna have to really, first of all, you got to distance yourself from your past. You got to put a big gap between you and your past, and you got to say, I made a mistake, and you got to try to own up to it, and all this stuff that women do. And even then, it's a performance, and then you got to hope that a guy's going to look the other way and still love you. And it can never be a real type of love. It can never be a very deep type of love, because in the back of his mind, he's always going to know that your videos are out there. He's always going to know that he's got this highly used woman. He's always going to know that she's damaged physically in one way or another, damaged emotionally, mentally in one way or another, and he's got to deal with that. Not only has he got to deal with that, he's got to deal with the fact that he knows these things. In the back of his mind, it's there, and it's always going to taint and tarnish how he really ultimately feels about you, because men want a pure woman. Men want a woman who, really loves... I shouldn't even say really loves them. I should say a woman who really has only ever loved them, has only ever been physically with them, because there's something wonderful and pure about that. But we can't have that in this society, because it's too late. It's too late for too many women, and many guys as well. And guys shouldn't either. People should be virgins when they meet. That's how God intended. That's how it's supposed to be, because there's a sanctity there. There's a pureness there. There's a special bond when that happens. And I get there's issues with that as well. What if the sex isn't good? What if the guy's got a small member? What if the guy, is this or that, or what if it doesn't work out, or what? There's all kinds of problems that comes with that, but there's all kinds of problems in general with relationships, But you add more problems when you say, "Oh, well, I've slept around the block," and then what happens when it's like, what's the alternative? Will you sleep with every guy before you marry them, and then okay, well, I got to sleep with this guy, so I know the sex is good, and then what ends up happening is sex ruins the relationship, because once you start sleeping together, then that purity is gone. And then it's all about sex. It changes the dynamic. And there's all kinds of problems with that. And it's just problems galore, when you're not pure. It's problems galore when you don't look for love at the very beginning. So I could never endorse, any of that after the fact. After she's 22, 24, it's just too late. She's been used. It's too late. She's jaded. And then women start to manipulate when it comes to relationships. They start to manipulate what type of man they want, how much money he makes, and then they start to sell themselves. At some point, women learn how to sell, and I think it's already in their nature. I think they're already doing that, but it becomes worse the more they do it. And then it's like, well, these women are out here walking around. They're marketers. They're selling themselves. They're bartering, and they're sleeping with guys along the way, and they're using their sexuality to get what they want out of a man. You don't want that type of woman. That's just not a pure woman. It's not a righteous woman. It's not a moral woman. It's not the type of woman you want to raise your kids. It's not the type of woman who's going to support you and really love you for you and really love you when you're down and out. It's the type of woman who's going to put all these conditions on you. She's going to put all these standards on you, all these loops to jump through in the relationship. She is going to be a problem in your life. She's not going to be a strong, loving addition. She's not going to be a helpmeet. She's not going to be a blessing to you. It's just going to be this constant problem. You're going to have to impress her. You're going to have to win her over, because she knows she can exchange you for some guy who's richer. She knows she can exchange you for some guy who will try twice as hard as you. You see how that works? And this is the modern woman of today. But anyway, I think I've talked enough about this. Appreciate you guys listening. It's been Jay Lee, Northwest Podcast. Peace.